So thanks so much for coming to have a chat with us today. This year is the 100th year anniversary of the women's game ban. Did you know about the ban, and could you give us a few thoughts on what you think about it?
Obviously, we've got a women's team, so on the way up here, we spoke about the anniversary and how important it was. And I think from the start, I think our ethos, obviously, we started with a men's team, but we've always wanted a women's team, and we kind of really set out to make sure we have a men's team, because our whole kind of ethos is about equality and parity, and that's where it was really important to set up a women's team. So again, like you said, it's about bringing awareness, and I think games like this, because not many teams would do a double header with women's and men's team, so fair play to FC United for organising it for us, and we were just more than happy to come down and represent for what again was a landmark anniversary today.
So in terms of the event then today and having that double header, how important do you think it is that you had both senior men's and women's teams sharing the same pitch, sharing the same facilities? How important do you think that is for clubs to do?
I think it's very important, because you have to set a precedent. I think with anything that happens in football, whether we're talking about Black Lives Matter or any sort of legislation, we've got to kind of set the precedent and kind of say this is the model, this is what we want to follow, and let people kind of see, okay, this is what the club is doing. Actually, maybe we could set up our own women's team, because not many teams, I don't think, still don't have a women's team, or even have it on parity where they're kind of influencing and putting money into the same money and kind of agenda, same as the men's team. So I think it's very important. With women's football is on the rise, everyone can see it. We just had obviously Great Britain, the Olympics, and everyone's following every World Cup. The participation of women playing football increases every time. So I think it's very important that we show games like this and they get the same exposure as the men as much as they can, really.
How else could male players be allies to women's teams?
I think, again, like we said, if you look at our team sort of as a model, anything we do, the men's team do, the women's team do. So even if you wanted to go down to kind of like budgets, exactly parity. We've got the same budget, so it's again same investing and putting the same, as you said, social media presence. Because of course the men's team has been there and been there for a while, but if anything, go above and beyond, because the men's team can take care of itself. So if anything, put extra exposure into social media for the women's game and make more people come and get themselves involved. Stuff like showing that match times when they are, profile players, just stuff like that. I think is really good, especially with social media. It's such a big tool now. Everyone watches it, so invest in it, and I'm sure the women's game will grow and grow.
And then just the last one, so in terms of fan ownership, how important do you think fan ownership is for the future of football, and also to help support and develop the women's game?
I think, as we've kind of well documented, the Super League has kind of really pushed people towards fan owners. It's gone on the left end and the right end in sense of kind of taking the fans for granted. And I think it's very important, especially when you come into grassroots, because it's the fans what make football. I know it's a cliche thing, but it is the fans that make football. Without the fans, there is no football. So it's very important, I think, that clubs kind of reinvest, get the members on board, fans on board, listen to them, listen to what they've got to say, and kind of invest in the future. And I think more and more fan-owned clubs will start arising, because after you get to a point where it's kind of you've had enough's enough, and you want to take your club back, get back to the core values of these clubs, because these owners they come and take over the clubs, but these clubs have been around for decades, some centuries, and they've got their core values and which they really want to go back to. So I think more fans should try and take more ownership, even if it's having a more percentage on the board, so they have a say, so they can control more of the clubs.
And just one last question in terms of your supporters. So, what an impact that they make on the match day, make a name for themselves, and they were obviously here to do the same for the women. How important do you think it is for the women's team to feel that love from the supporters?
I mean, again, the women's team have just arrived, so they've been like a couple of seasons, and they were surprised, even the first game, to have the support. They used to be having about 5-10 people come. All of a sudden, 200 people come into them on a Sunday. It galvanises them, it makes them want to come out, they want to play, and it kind of shows in kind of the women's game that people will invest in it and willing to go, so it's case of changing their timetable, because obviously women's football happens on a Sunday, people are used to Saturday football. So again, it's watching what we do, and kind of setting the precedent and saying, okay, look what they're doing, can we do the same? Can we push the women's game more and more and get more parity and more kind of involvement and engagement, and and it'll be good for all.